Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to an edition of What Goes on Tour, our bi-weekly vodcast, which is taking place on a Wednesday and a Saturday during the course of the Greatest Rivalry Tour. Now, in Wednesday's episode, we spoke to Justin Marshall, who was one of the All Blacks who was victorious in a series against South Africa here 30 years ago. He's aged magnificently well. And not surprisingly, he's happy to be talking to us here this evening. 33 points to 16 in favour of the All Blacks. What a victory. What a night at Ellis Park, Marshy.
Oh, yeah, it was. Like, what we spoke about last week when we chatted and what everybody's been speaking about, easily the hardest place you come as any rugby player, let alone an All Black, to play the Springboks. And, the All Blacks had to work their way through a lot of issues in the game. They didn't get it all their own way. But to be able to do that and then win 5 tries to 1. It took some guts, some determination, some stamina, and some real intelligence at working out what wasn't working and what they needed to spin around. And I just feel incredibly proud to be a former All Black here tonight, having seen them knock the world champions over, because nobody does that without hard work.
Yeah, Rudy Page is with us as well. Rassie Erasmus said at the start of this game, or in his pre-match interview, he said, this game is so crucial in a 4-match series because if you lose, you've got to win 3 in a row to win the series outright. The pressure is on.
The pressure is definitely on. And first of all, I think the All Blacks were sensational. I want to give credit to them and not take it away from them. But the importance and the confidence that they're going to take out of this match going into the next 3 games is also very important. That they got the belief now that they can do it in Africa. So I think that for me is quite significant in this result. And the way that they played, the manner in which they absorbed for periods in that match, I was really impressed with that All Black performance that we saw just now.
Yeah, hugely impressive. Just a last word from you, Marshy, on 3 players who hadn't played a minute on this tour so far. The captain, Ardie Savea, the scrum half, Cam Roygaard, the right wing, Will Jordan, who got over for yet another 2 All Black tries. All 3 of them going 80 minutes, all 3 of them sensational.
Yeah, they were. And, you read out those 3 names and they are easily, in pedigree, the top 3 players probably in New Zealand currently at the moment. But what you need in this environment, particularly when you're going into those sheds, up that tunnel at half-time, down a point, and it had been under massive pressure, is you need that type of leadership and experience and that razzle-dazzle of not being insular, but saying, we're okay. And then those players executing. Will Jordan, another couple of tries, as you mentioned. What a couple of try assists from Ardie Savea, bang to Jacobson, then the bridge pass over to Will Jordan. They all stepped up. Cam Roygaard was a menace all day. They are vitally important to the All Blacks in terms of this series and moving forward, and their performances tonight were brilliant. Equally, I know that it was a chance for me to have the last word. Equally as my performance here at Ellis Park, unlike when I was a player, I'm up in the media box, and I've managed to stack 4 castles into my backpack that's just waiting for me over there. And because of this win tonight, I'm going to enjoy them in the car ride back to the hotel. Thank you very much.
Mate, you've earned them. Go and enjoy this win.
Them? I think they earned them, but I'll drink them for them.
Okay,
Cheers,
we'll enjoy it. Thanks. Justin Marshall will be joining us a lot again during the course of the tour. Thanks, Marshy, for that. Let's talk a little bit as well, Rudy Page, about Ruben Love. He played against the Springboks once off the bench in Wellington last year in a record defeat of the All Blacks. But he was given this opportunity to come and run the game here this evening behind a pack that in the first half was struggling, and he stepped up and did a great job.
And Matthew, I thought what I really loved about his performance tonight is that he never went and searched for things to do. He allowed the game, had so much composure in the way that he played, got such good distance on his kicks as well. And I thought that was a quality that stood out for me. That he never forced an opportunity but tried to enforce himself into the match, that he allowed the match gradually to come to him. And then once the moments were there to have his own imprint on the match, he was really good at those moments.
Yeah, so some very special individual performances from the All Black side that came together to produce a very impressive collective. Having said that, let's go to South Africa and say that in the first half, the pack was truly magnificent. The scrum effort, even on New Zealand feeding the ball, was exceptional. Jasper Visser was a menace with his ball carries. Paul de Villiers was getting in to make the tackles, and Peter Steff was Peter Steff. So not much complaint from the effort of the forward pack, but they created a lot of opportunity, which they couldn't convert in the All Blacks 22, and going into halftime just 1 point ahead didn't feel like enough. The All Blacks took some belief into the second 40.
And I think there was really good things that happened tonight. I know that the end result at the moment obviously got us hurting, but I thought Wilco Louw's performance in the scrum, if I have to single out one guy, the amount of scrum penalties that he got, and the turnovers, I thought the fact that Paul de Villiers came in only his 4th test match for the Springboks, he was really excellent at either turning the ball over or allowing the All Blacks to throw more numbers at the breakdown, which was, I think, his role to the T that he played. But we built pressure so perfectly, Matthew. We had the dominance and just that conversion rate. The fact that halftime we thought that we applied so much pressure through either our scrum, our maul, or our kicking play that we should have had maybe more than 7-point advantage going into the sets.
Perhaps a turning point in the game. The Springboks, with a series of penalties inside the 22, opted for another scrum. The penalty at that scrum, underneath the crossbar of the All Blacks, went the way of the All Blacks. A few minutes later, they had a scrum in a similar position in South Africa's 22, and it led to the try by Luke Jacobson. So they had that one opportunity, they took it, and they built scoreboard pressure.
I think something that stood out to me is the fact that the Safa Amoa came on right before that scrum under the poles, where we could have gotten forced hand into a yellow card, which to me, the decision-making to stick with the scrum, Matthew, I liked it. We had them under pressure, I don't mind it, but that was a crucial moment in the match, and obviously the Luke Jacobs try that happened. They used the opportunities really effectively, and that's the credit to the All Blacks. I think our players will learn from it. Our handling errors not being as cutthroat inside the 22 once we had them under pressure and putting the nail in the coffin. But a lot of credit goes to this All Black team.
Yeah, they were ruthless in terms of their execution. When you look back at the statistics of this test match, you see territorial advantage to the Springboks. They had 62% of the territory, but 5 tries to 1 in favor of the All Blacks, and they were ruthless in their execution.
And every opportunity they got, they were really clinical. They're passing, finding the space in the wider channels, identifying on our blind side defensively. We might have left Grant Williams on his own a few times there, coming back to that space. So I thought they played really well. For us, we'll take a learning from it. Then maybe the opportunity to build scoreboard pressure, more important in this rugby's greatest rivalry. But in hindsight, our maul has always worked. Our scrum has always functioned. So the decision-making to beg our set piece makes total sense to me. Just didn't have the reward tonight, and we'll take a lot of learning from it.
Having said that, it took over half an hour for the Springboks to put the ball into a scrum.
Which is fascinating on its own, because that is the thing we've been talking for probably the last 3 weeks.
But doesn't that speak, Rudy, to the execution of the All Blacks? Their error rate was actually remarkably low. Yes, they conceded scrum penalties, some on their own ball, but they didn't give a lot of opportunity to the Springboks to establish a set-piece platform.
And it's been a trend, Matthew, that I've picked up from the Stormers game. That first game, they allowed the Stormers to go into a set-piece better because their discipline wasn't up to standard. But ever since that game, their discipline has really improved. And the only way you can get set-piece in someone's half is by penalty count. They dropped their penalty count, which means they didn't have to stop mauls or they have scrums in their own half. And that's the fascinating part of the Springbok performance, dropping their penalty count, and that is how they could stay in this game and then eventually find their way to win this test match.
Okay, 1 test into a 4-test series. Let's take a little trip down memory lane to last year's Rugby Championship. Defeat for the Springboks at Eden Park, only by 7 points. The response 7 days later was immaculate. 11 changes in the starting lineup and a record victory by 43 points to 10. They will look back on that history to know that they can turn it around in a week. Sometimes the margins are really small, but what are the fixes going into Cape Town next week for match 2?
Match 2, the fixes for me is obviously being clinical with ball in hand, turning that pressure into points, which this team has always been good. But we've always bounced back. We look at the test match we lost against the Wallabies a few years ago, turning that around. Obviously, spoke about last year losing at Eden Park and then going to Wellington. So I've got full trust in this team that there will be a reaction. There will be a performance that we'll see at the DHL Stadium that will get us back on track and level this Test Match Series 1-1 in rugby's greatest rivalry.
Well, somebody's already said it effectively sets up as a quarterfinal, semi-final, and a final. And we know how that went for the Boks in 2023, albeit by 1.1 point.
Hopefully not that close again, Matthew.
Well, let's look ahead to next week. The All Blacks will stay here on their tour. They have one more game against the Lions to play here at Ellis Park, and they move to Cape Town on Wednesday. We believe that the Springboks are actually doing the same. They're staying to train at altitude until Wednesday and then coming down to Cape Town. But that match at DHL Stadium now shapes up as yet another epic on this incredible journey between these two teams.
And I think that is what is so cool about the series, that every game has got repercussions. Every single test match in the pre-essence of it will be tested. Every player, the pressure points, decision-making. But at DHL Stadium, we're in for an absolute humdinger. We're in for a bruising encounter. And what is fascinating, these players only have 7 days to turn around because their bodies will be hurting. That was an epic test match at the Coliseum of Ellis Park. But I think I'm confident our Springbok team can turn it around in Cape Town.
Well, Rudy Page talks about the Coliseum. That is 4 wins in the last 6 matches between the two teams at the stadium for the All Blacks. So they won here in 2022. They lost out by just 4 points in 2024, but they're back on the winning side and on the board in the rugby's greatest rivalry series. My thanks to Rudy Page and also to our guest, Justin Marshall, who, as I said, was only too pleased to join us after an All Black victory of that quality. We'll be down in Cape Town and continuing on rugby's greatest rivalry tour. We've got 2 fabulous guests lined up for the midweek episode. Thank you for all your comments on the podcast. Keep them coming. Give us a thumbs up. And we really thank you for your engagement. There's lots still to come on the rugby's greatest rivalry tour. And until next time on the What Goes on Tour podcast, cheerio.